You think women fall for fancy lines, over-the-top flirting, and rehearsed charm. But most of the time, attraction is built through something much smaller, much quieter, and much more psychological than that. A single word said with the right energy can create more emotional connection than 100 desperate compliments ever will. That's the difference between emotional presence and emotional performance. Because the nickname itself is never the real reason she smiles. It's what the nickname communicates underneath: attention, comfort, playfulness, emotional intimacy, intentionality. And if you don't understand that part, you'll misuse every single thing you hear online. Before we go deeper, understand this clearly. If you're serious about becoming emotionally sharper, more grounded, and harder to manipulate through attention addiction, subscribe now. Not because I need subscribers, because you need reminders. Daily reminders. In a world teaching men to chase approval constantly, somebody has to remind you that attraction grows strongest when you stop performing and start communicating with self-respect, calmness, and emotional intelligence. Now let's get honest. Most men ruin attraction by trying too hard too early. Too many compliments. Too much intensity. Too much emotional pressure. They meet a woman and immediately start calling her baby, wifey, my queen, like emotional strangers trying to skip straight to intimacy without earning connection first. That behavior does not create attraction. It creates emotional discomfort. Why? Because forced intimacy feels psychologically unsafe. People trust pacing, not pressure. And this is where most men fail to understand female psychology completely. Women are not only reacting to your words, they are reacting to the emotional state behind your words. That's why one man can say, "Hey, trouble," and create instant chemistry while another says the exact same thing and sounds awkward, needy, or performative. The word is not the difference. The energy is, and energy always reveals identity. If you are internally desperate for validation, your communication leaks insecurity automatically. If you are emotionally grounded, your communication feels lighter, calmer, more playful, more natural. That's what creates attraction. Now, here's what this really means. Nicknames work when they create emotional atmosphere, not emotional pressure. Read that again. The goal is not to impress her. The goal is to create emotional ease. Because emotionally grounded communication makes people feel relaxed around you. And relaxed people connect more deeply. That's psychology. Now let's talk about the first nickname. Trouble? Simple. Playful. Light. Why does it work? Because it creates emotional tension without emotional heaviness. It says, "I notice your energy," not "please validate me emotionally." Big difference. Weak men communicate from emotional hunger. Grounded men communicate from emotional presence. And playful nicknames work because playfulness signals confidence, not fake confidence, relaxed confidence. The kind that does not desperately seek approval from every interaction. Now, does that mean you call every woman trouble? No, that's another mistake insecure men make. They memorize tactics instead of understanding principles. If your communication sounds copied, forced, or rehearsed, people feel it immediately. That's called incongruence. And incongruence kills attraction because humans naturally distrust emotionally unnatural behavior. The second nickname is sunshine. Now listen carefully because this matters. This works only when it feels earned and emotionally specific. Not random, specific. Why? Because people are emotionally affected by feeling seen, not worshipped. Seen. There's a difference. Weak men throw generic compliments everywhere hoping something works. Grounded men notice actual energy. If she brings positivity into conversations, sunshine feels emotionally connected to reality. That creates warmth, and warmth matters more than intensity long term. Now here's the hard truth. Many men think attraction is built through overwhelming attention. Wrong. Overwhelming attention often communicates emotional dependency, and dependency suffocates attraction. This is why timing matters. A nickname should feel like a natural extension of connection, not an emotional shortcut to intimacy. That's why pacing is everything. The third nickname is smartass. Playful teasing, light challenge, emotional movement. Notice the pattern here. The strongest nicknames are rarely worshipful. They are interactive. Why? Because attraction grows through emotional engagement, not pedestal building. The moment you start placing somebody above you psychologically, your communication changes. You become cautious, approval-seeking, performative. That weakens attraction instantly. Self-respect matters in communication. A lot. The grounded man does not communicate like somebody emotionally afraid to lose attention. He communicates like somebody enjoying connection while remaining centered in himself. That groundedness changes tone automatically. Now let's go deeper into why nicknames matter psychologically. Nicknames create emotional personalization. They signal, I see you differently than everybody else does. That creates emotional distinction. Humans naturally value interactions that feel emotionally unique. But again, uniqueness cannot be forced. That's why trying too hard backfires. The fourth nickname is Pretty Girl. Simple, classic, direct. And notice something important. Directness works when it comes from grounded energy. Insecure men either avoid expressing attraction completely or overdo it emotionally. Both extremes fail. The grounded man is comfortable expressing interest without emotionally collapsing into it. That balance is rare. He says things calmly, naturally, without needing reassurance in return. That emotional stability makes simple words feel stronger. Now listen carefully because this changes everything. Women are often more affected by how you make them feel emotionally than by the exact words themselves. Meaning, your emotional atmosphere matters more than your vocabulary. If your energy feels calm, playful, grounded, and present, simple communication becomes attractive. If your energy feels needy, anxious, or emotionally dependent, even perfect lines sound weak. That's why self-work matters more than scripts. Always. The fifth nickname is Danger. Again, playful emotional tension, not manipulation. Tension. Huge difference. Playful tension creates movement in conversations. It prevents communication from becoming emotionally flat and predictable. But insecure men misuse this constantly. They think teasing means disrespect. Wrong. Disrespect destroys trust. Playfulness builds chemistry. Learn the difference. The grounded man teases lightly without humiliating people, without trying to dominate emotionally, without turning interactions into ego competitions. That balance creates attraction because it communicates social confidence instead of emotional insecurity. Now, here's another hard truth. A lot of men are not actually flirting. They are auditioning for approval. Read that again. They monitor every word nervously, overanalyze every response, panic during silence, seek reassurance constantly. That energy becomes emotionally exhausting because attraction requires freedom, not pressure. The sixth nickname is Angel. Now, this one works differently. It creates softness instead of tension. And emotional softness matters when it feels genuine rather than performative. Again, intention matters. If you throw affectionate words around carelessly, they lose emotional weight. Grounded communication is intentional communication, meaning your words carry emotional precision, not constant emotional flooding. That's why emotionally disciplined people often appear more attractive without trying harder. Their communication has weight because it is not compulsive. Now let's talk about emotional timing, because timing separates grounded communication from awkward communication. The wrong nickname at the wrong time creates discomfort instantly. Why? Because emotional connection develops in stages. Trying to sound deeply intimate too early signals emotional impatience. And emotional impatience usually comes from loneliness, not confidence. That's the deeper issue. Lonely people often rush emotional closeness because they are trying to escape themselves through connection. Grounded people allow attraction to develop naturally, not slowly on purpose to manipulate. Naturally. They understand emotional pacing. Now here's the seventh nickname. Beautiful. Not overcomplicated. Not performative. Strong because of simplicity. But again, delivery matters more than the word itself. A calm, "You look beautiful today," said with grounded confidence creates more attraction than 20 exaggerated compliments trying to force emotional reaction. Because grounded communication feels emotionally safe. Not weak safe. Stable safe. There's a difference. People relax around emotionally stable individuals because they do not feel emotionally pressured constantly. That relaxation creates trust. Trust creates comfort. Comfort deepens attraction. Now let's go deeper into the archetype because this is where most men either understand attraction or completely miss it. The grounded man does not use nicknames as tactics. He uses them as natural expressions of emotional connection. There's a difference. He is not scanning for the perfect line, not trying to manipulate emotional reactions, not desperately trying to stand out. His life already has structure outside attraction. He has purpose, discipline, direction. He trains his body, protects his attention, values his time. And because his identity is not dependent on female validation, his communication feels lighter, more relaxed, more authentic, more playful. That groundedness changes everything. He does not panic if a joke fails, does not overcompensate if attraction fluctuates, does not emotionally collapse because somebody loses interest. Why? Because his self-worth exists before the interaction begins. That's confidence, not loudness, not arrogance, internal stability. And women feel that immediately because emotionally stable men are rare now. Most people communicate from unresolved insecurity, trying too hard, oversharing too early, seeking constant reassurance, creating emotional pressure, chaos everywhere. So grounded communication stands out instantly. Now here's the eighth nickname. Miss Independent? Why does this work sometimes? Because recognition creates emotional connection. People like being seen accurately. Again, not worshipped. Seen. The nickname acknowledges energy instead of just appearance. That creates emotional depth, and emotional depth matters more than surface level flirting long term. But notice something important. Grounded men pay attention. That's why their communication feels personal. Most people do not truly observe others anymore. They project, perform, seek validation. But presence creates connection. Real presence. The ability to actually notice someone without immediately turning interactions into self-focused performance. That quality is becoming rare. Very rare. Now the ninth nickname. Goofball. Simple. Warm. Playful. And again, notice the emotional pattern. The strongest nicknames create emotional ease, not emotional pressure. That's the lesson. Because attraction grows best in environments where people feel emotionally free to be themselves, not judged constantly, not pressured constantly, not emotionally managed constantly. Freedom matters psychologically. Now let's destroy another misconception. Many men think attraction is built by saying the right thing. No, attraction is often destroyed by the wrong emotional state, neediness, desperation, validation addiction, emotional overinvestment. That's why the same nickname sounds attractive from one person and uncomfortable from another. The internal energy changes the emotional experience completely. So if you really want to become more attractive, stop obsessing over words first. Fix your emotional foundation. Build self-respect. Build discipline. Build purpose. Build emotional control. Because grounded men communicate differently automatically. They are not trying to force outcomes constantly. They enjoy connection without emotionally depending on it. That freedom becomes magnetic. Now here's something important. Healthy attraction is collaborative, not manipulative. Do not use nicknames to fake intimacy. Do not use psychology to emotionally control people. Do not force romantic energy where there is clearly discomfort or disinterest. Respect matters. Always. The goal is not manipulation. The goal is becoming emotionally grounded enough that your communication naturally creates warmth, comfort, and attraction instead of emotional pressure. Huge difference. Now let's get practical. Stop calling every woman generic names immediately. It sounds lazy, performative, emotionally automatic. Instead, pay attention. Observe personality, energy, behavior, then communicate specifically. Next, slow down emotionally. Do not rush intimacy because you fear losing momentum. Do not force chemistry because you fear rejection. Relax. Attraction develops best without desperation controlling the pace. Then improve your emotional regulation. Do not panic over delayed responses. Do not overanalyze every interaction. Do not build fantasy relationships in your mind after 2 conversations. Stay grounded. Reality over fantasy. Always. Next, strengthen your own life. Seriously. Purpose protects men from emotional dependency. Without purpose, attraction becomes emotional survival. Every interaction feels life or death. Every rejection feels catastrophic. That instability leaks into communication immediately. But grounded men already have direction, so their interactions feel lighter, healthier, more attractive. Then practice playful confidence, not arrogance, not performative alpha behavior. Relaxed confidence. The ability to joke, tease lightly, express attraction honestly, and remain emotionally stable regardless of outcome. That's rare, and rarity creates value. Now here's the deeper truth behind all of this. Women do not secretly love nicknames because of the words themselves. They love what emotionally grounded communication makes them feel. Seen, relaxed, desired without pressure, connected without control. That emotional experience matters far more than cleverness ever will. And once you understand that, your entire communication style changes. You stop trying to impress constantly. You stop performing masculinity. You stop chasing reactions. You become calmer, more intentional, more observant, more emotionally disciplined. And ironically, that's when attraction starts growing naturally. Because emotionally grounded people create emotionally attractive environments. That's the real psychology. Now understand this final truth. The most attractive thing you can ever communicate is not a nickname. It's emotional stability. The ability to remain yourself under pressure. The ability to express interest without losing dignity. The ability to create connection without abandoning self-respect. That changes everything. You stop over-pursuing. You stop over-explaining. You stop emotionally flooding conversations trying to force chemistry. Instead, you communicate from fullness instead of emotional hunger. That energy feels different immediately. Calmer, stronger, more trustworthy. And trust matters deeply in attraction. Because temporary excitement may create attention, but emotional safety creates attachment. Again, not weak safety, grounded safety. The kind where somebody feels emotionally relaxed around you because your energy is stable. That stability becomes rare in a world addicted to chaos. And rare things naturally become valuable. That's the identity shift. You are not here to memorize tricks for attention. You are not here to perform constantly for validation. You are not here to force attraction through pressure and emotional overinvestment. You are here to become grounded enough that your communication naturally creates warmth, playfulness, calmness, and connection. You are the answer. Not a nickname, not a script, not a tactic. You. Your emotional discipline, your self-respect, your purpose, your ability to remain centered while expressing genuine interest. That's real masculine presence. And once you understand that, your words stop sounding needy. They start carrying emotional weight. So if this gave you clarity, subscribe now and stay connected to this community. A community built on truth over performance, self-respect over validation addiction, and emotional discipline over emotional chaos. Because the world already has enough noise. What you need now is groundedness, clarity, and the courage to communicate like somebody who already respects himself before anyone else does.